Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with an off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. No hurricanes coming, but a potent ocean storm going to sideswipe the Carolinas and then maybe bring some effects up to New England on Monday. I'm going to talk about that, but I'm going to focus on the impact here to the North Carolina, South Carolina coast, especially the North Carolina Outer Banks, as this storm looks to intensify very quickly off the Carolina coast tomorrow and through Monday. Looking at the national map, a lot of weather up here in the upper Midwest. Not going to focus on that as much as I am this area, especially because this purple indicates storm warnings, and that's much more of what I am knowledgeable in. Coastal storms, hurricanes, tropical storms, nor'easters, not so much the snowfall and blizzards and things like that, unless it occurs along the coast. And we might have some interesting weather over the next few days, especially up in New England. I'll get to that in just a minute. First of all, in the eastern part of the Carolinas, National Weather Service out of Morehead City indicating storm warnings in and around the coastal waters of North Carolina, and that means that winds could gust to as high as 60 miles per hour, and you have high wind warnings, coastal flood warnings, gale warnings, wind advisory, all kinds of things happening in here because of this intense coastal low that's going to develop. I'll show you that on the GFS in just a moment. One of the things I want to emphasize, though, is the possibility of coastal flooding, and therefore the Weather Service has issued a coastal flood warning through 10 a.m. Sunday through the afternoon on Monday. And what this basically comes down to is they are looking at water level rises of 3 to 5 feet above normal for the Soundside locations of eastern North Carolina. But then the beaches, the water levels also could be 3 to 5 feet above normal, in a combination of the storm surge, that's the wind-driven rise in the water level, plus the wave run-up. There's going to be some pretty high waves out there, maybe up to 12 feet, maybe higher, and the occasional rogue wave that comes in. And this is mainly in the area from Cape Hatteras north. So you think about Cape Hatteras, Rodanthe, on up through Nags Head, Kitty Hawk, Duck, and points north from there. And really the significant erosion, this is a problem here. Ocean overwash, you think about Highway 12 out there. And I'm bringing this up not only to make people aware, just to draw attention to it, because it's an important, fairly high impact event, but tomorrow, into tomorrow evening especially, a lot of attention is going to be placed on the Super Bowl. And, people may not be thinking about rough weather. And I just, figured it was important to talk about this and bring it up, especially since the Carolina Panthers are playing, and there might be a lot of interest here in eastern North Carolina. So they talk about Highway 12 will likely become inundated and possibly impassable in the typically prone inundation areas along the ocean and Soundside areas. So this could be a big problem, and I think people need to be aware of it, so I thought I would bring it up. In addition to the coastal flooding from the wind and the storm surge and the high waves, rainfall is going to be another issue, especially in extreme southeast North Carolina and parts of the eastern South Carolina, even down to portions of the low country, Charleston, and areas north along the Highway 17 corridor. Anywhere from an inch to as much as 3, maybe 4 inches of rain in isolated spots, and therefore flood watches are up because of that. So this is going to be, for this part of the southeast, a fairly significant storm. Might even see some frozen precip in here at some point. This low really going to intensify. I can show you that on the GFS from this morning's run. This is valid this evening in just a couple of hours. And watch what happens as we go through time. Here's the coast of North Carolina here, South Carolina further down. So watch what happens as I move through the frames here. By tomorrow morning at sunrise, the low really starts to intensify over the warm Gulf Stream waters, and through the day, Sunday, it cranks up. Notice some of these wind barbs in here. We're talking already 30 to 40 knot winds hammering the coast here. Very heavy rainfall from time to time. So anybody headed out to church services tomorrow, that you need to be aware of that. Very heavy rain, ponding of water on the roadways. This is going to be a big issue. And as the day progresses, look at that low. Very typical fast development, the low pressure area deepening quickly right off of Cape Fear. and then you have these very strong north to northeast winds just piling up the water against the Outer Banks. And then the Sound side area, Pamlico Sound, the Albemarle Sound, Carteret County, Craven County, the typical areas that get flooded from the Pamlico Sound. This is going to be a problem, so you need to be ready for it. I kid you not. Don't let this sneak up on you. You look at all these convective blobs in here. This is what the GFS indicating. To me, I look at that and I say, wow, this looks very intense, very heavy rainfall underneath those areas there that indicate the previous 6 hours rainfall, I think is what that shows. But that shows me thunderstorms, deep convection with this system, and then the pressure really starts to drop as the low pressure area moves away from the Carolinas. Luckily, if this was going to parallel the coast and go right on up into New England, it would be a very, very powerful storm and giant blizzard for that area. As it is, more than likely this will sideswipe New England as well. And if I go back out here to the main GFS maps, I want to show you what happens with that, just to give you a glance at what happens on Monday as the system heads up into New England, at least the back side of it. It's going to be a very large and sprawling system. That's the other aspect of this. So if we look at the 4-day forecast here, 96 hours worth, check out what happens here. The low pressure area develops off the Carolina coast right there. And then watch what happens up here in New England. Just enough of that moisture gets in there that, yeah, there could be some heavy snow from time to time in the New England area from this storm system, and then other weak low pressure areas following behind. But really the main impact that I wanted to talk about in eastern North Carolina, Cape Hatteras, Hatteras Village, Ocracoke, and points north especially. Highway 12 could be impassable at times. So if you're going to Super Bowl parties, hanging out, you really need to keep that in mind. So I wish I could go out there and set up some cameras, but just the timing of it doesn't work out this weekend. I'm sure there'll be plenty of pictures of Overwatch coming in, and I'll regret not being able to go out there. But there will be other storms. It's going to be an active period coming up, it looks like here, with the threat of East Coast storms over the next couple of weeks or so. Not good news, too, because of the severe beach erosion. That also mentioned in the Outlook product there for the coastal flood warning, and we need all the dune protection we can because hurricane season is only a few months away. And so all of this starts to add up and become cumulative when we look ahead for the summer and the possibility of any tropical interactions. This, again, not a tropical system, but a very potent low-pressure area, and I wanted to make you aware of it. So pass this video, share it along with anybody that you think might be interested, just to make them, hey, look, what's happening, man? You might have a pretty big storm headed your way, and just make sure people are aware. All right, well, that's it from me for today. Thanks for tuning in. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com, and I'll probably post something again tomorrow with an update as the storm starts to take shape then.